The haunted crosswalk kicks things off in at number 10. Somewhere in South America on Google Maps, there is a crossroad, but there are some things you should know before you decide to cross the street at this busy intersection. Aside from looking both ways, before you cross, you might want to take extra precautions because you might stumble across a dark figure. According to the local legends, if you enter the middle, you will see everything go dark, and then you'll be met face to face with a shadowy figure known as the Crossroad Reaper. Well, here's a picture of the Reaper caught on Google Maps camera. Don't believe he's real? Well, why don't you try crossing the intersection yourself? And then you try to tell me you never saw him.
Coming in number 9, we have Katish Castle, a beautiful work of art, a towering castle that would be fit for only the finest royalty that wants nothing more than to help the people, or for a homicidal maniac who really wants to torture hundreds of people for a completely unknown reason. Even though this castle looks beautiful and innocent, it's far from that. The Katish Castle was home to Elizabeth Bathory, who was obsessed with torture and bloodletting to try and heal herself. She would send out servants to find poor people and bring them back to her castle. They would either be promised jobs or some etiquette training, but they would actually be tortured to death and drained of their blood. And she would do some horrible things to these people. She would amputate their body parts, put people in devious torture devices, and she would also drain them of their blood so she could bathe in it and drink in it. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this place is evil. Coming in at number 8, we have Mount St. Helens. Now, I'm going to be a little bit loose on this one because Mount St. Helens doesn't really contain a great evil because nature is really neutral, but it does contain a destructive force that is as powerful as any evil force on this planet. When you just look at the beautiful mountain, which is Mount St. Helens, it looks like one of the most beautiful peaks in all the land. It looks like you should hike up it, build your life right on the side with a beautiful log cabin where you can spend out the rest of your days raising your beautiful family in the wilderness. But I couldn't think of a worse idea than building a home right around Mount St. Helens because it has enough destructive power to cover a lot of the US in ash. And with the way things are going in the world, the last thing we would need is a volcano to blow up and send a massive fire cloud through the sky so it blots out the sun and none of us can grow food, and maybe we freeze to death on top of that. Coming at number 7, we have the Gomangtong Caves in Malaysia. Once again, another touch of nature that happens to be filled to the brim with something horrible. Locals say that these caves are cursed, and for good reason. Even if you don't believe in some horrible mystic evil, you will be scared off from these caves from the thousands of things in there that will gross you out or just straight up try to kill you. The most famous creature that loves to call these caves home are the bats. And beyond being one of the most diseased carrying creatures on the planet, these bats poop on everything in sight. There is more bat droppings in there than the Wayne family toilet. That is a Batman joke for you. So if you've got enough grit to push past an ankle-deep valley of flying rodent excrement, then you're going to get blasted in the face with some cockroaches. And these Malaysian cockroaches are massive and they also have wings. If one flying creep wasn't enough for you, here's some more. On top of that, there's a ton of venomous insects and reptiles that call this place home, so if you don't die from being grossed out, you might die from lethal injection. Next on the list is the Forbidden City, Beijing, China. I mean, it should be no surprise that a place called the Forbidden City has a dark past. No one tells you that a place is forbidden because it's filled with gumdrops and $20 bills. But when you look at this place, it's absolutely beautiful. The ancient structures have been around for over 600 years, and when you see something that old, you immediately think of something cute and innocent. I mean, I don't know anything that can live for 600 years, but if I did, it would be this cute old man that kind of walks around super cute and looks like a tortoise or something like that. But this place has a very dark past of people murdering each other to try and get ahead in royal families. Now, there are a ton of haunted spirits walking the halls seeking revenge on those who betrayed them, but I hate to break it to you, it's a little bit late to get your revenge. Next on the list, we have Snake Island, Brazil. Once again, this one is more on the side of nature, but it can be easy to understand why this one is on the list when you find out that this place is called Snake Island. There isn't any sort of dark evil force living there like an ancient curse or supernatural baddie, but there is a ton of snakes that want to feast on your still warm beating heart. I mean, from a distance, Snake Island looks like it would be the best secret beach to live on. It's an uninhabited island, just so innocent, no people living on it. You could move right in and become a hermit, but if you were to do that, it would become one of your worst nightmares, and the reason for that is stated in the island's name. It's called Snake Island. There are snakes everywhere, and some of them are the most poisonous snakes you will ever encounter. Next on the list is Salem, Massachusetts, USA. What would now be a cute tourist spot where you can go get clam chowder and see a chunk of American history that's carved right out of the American coastal city, but it used to be home to one of the most horrible crimes in human history. The Salem witch trials are when people juiced up with a holy rage hunted down and prosecuted innocent people for being witches. Some of these people were just healers or people who subscribed to a different faith, but none of that mattered when the courts got involved. They were all seen as guilty and then hung. Many places in town are now said to be haunted with the angry spirits of people who were wrongfully killed so many years ago. Even though they might have not died as someone evil, their souls became evil after they were forced to be stuck in Salem for eternity. Next on the list is Larnock Castle in New Zealand. Once again, a place that looks so innocent just based on how beautiful it is. This place looks like it was pulled right out of a fairy tale. Larnock Castle is surrounded by wondrous draping foliage that makes it look like you're walking through a mystical gateway as you enter the royal grounds. And once you're in the castle, the massive ballroom is so breathtaking it will have you saying, "These dudes were ballin' and we should eat the rich." But all of this beauty is sideswiped by the fact that this residence is plagued by an angry ghost, the daughter of the former owner who fell ill with a horrible case of typhoid and it would take her life. Now because her ghost died in agony, it walks the halls beaming with spectral energy. Coming in at number 2, we have New Orleans. I know I'm putting this one on the list, but New Orleans is one of my number 1 travel places. At first glance, New Orleans looks like the most innocent place you can take your family. There's a ton of stuff to do outdoors, you have beautiful architecture, amazing food. Really, this is one of the best places you can go visit. But when you start pulling back the veil on the history, there is a ton of dark magic pulled into this place. There's a long history of ghost stories, hauntings, and voodoo. Not to mention the city is one of the murder capitals of America, which really makes you wonder whether or not dark voodoo has anything to do with making the people here more aggressive, or is it just the day drinking and hot weather? And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have churches. These are supposed to be holy places that cannot be corrupted by evil of the outside world. They're supposed to be the most innocent places on the planet that only house the naive who want to see the whole world work together to become one happy place. But there have been some churches throughout time that have housed some very evil people. For instance, if you go back to the year 955, you will uncover one of the most horrible popes who ever lived. Actually, maybe the most horrible pope who ever lived. It was Pope Jean Paul XII, and he has a laundry list of offenses even if he wasn't someone holy. Let's start with the lighter stuff, which includes premarital gambling, drinking, lavish parties, blackmailing, stealing, wrongful imprisonment, and that's just getting started. He's also accused of kidnapping women and them. It said that he would torture people who tried to stop his debaucherous lifestyle. He apparently blinded a dude for disagreeing with him, and he was doing all this stuff on the church's dime. It's true what they say, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Number 10. Port Royal, Jamaica. Port Royal in Jamaica used to be the most banger place on earth. It was once considered the world's best party town for pirates back in the 1600s. You know how much of a good time you have to be for pirates to collectively decide you're one of the best place to party? Pirates are maybe the best partiers of all time. However, God probably got all butthurt about this because in June of 1692, a massive earthquake hit the area, followed by a huge tsunami which buried the whole city underwater. Around 3,000 people died, and the city has been left underwater to this day. This is definitely a huge bummer. It's considered an archaeological wonder, but I think we all need to pour one out for our fallen pirate brothers and sisters. We're just trying to have a colossal rager when the whole world came crashing down on them. I hope they're all up there in heaven getting tanked and rinsing puke out of their little funny mustaches.
Up next, number 9, we have the creepy Scientology base. The Church of Scientology has been involved in a ton of controversy over the years. From its treatment of its members to its highly secretive practices, a lot of people are actually scared of this religion. For people that aren't members, it's actually pretty hard to know what exactly is going on inside of their buildings. One of their churches, called Trementina, is one of the properties owned by Scientology that can be seen on Google Maps over in New Mexico. Well, take a look for yourselves. You guys are looking at it right now. Okay, what the heck is happening inside of this building? They say that they use it to preserve books and movies, but honestly, who knows? They could be performing satanic rituals for all we know. Nuclear testing facility makes its way onto this list at number 8. Here we have a picture of a Google satellite image of a nuclear testing facility located in Nevada. So yeah, probably pretty close to Area 51. I think the reason why you should never visit this location is it's highly obvious. It's definitely not open to the public, and I'm not sure why you would want to even attempt to step foot near this location, and that's because it is full of so much radiation. Mushroom clouds can be seen up to 100 miles away in the distance, so this actually caused a lot more tourists wanting to visit Las Vegas. My idea of a good time does not involve slot machines and clouds of nuclear radiation, but that's just my opinion. It's actually really scary to think about it, that the fact that we are testing deadly nuclear weapons. Helltown in New Baltimore brings us to number 7. A Google Street View car managed to capture this image on their camera. Could this just be an equipment glitch, or could something more sinister be going on in this small town? Apparently people in this area are saying that there is a portal to hell in the area. Residents of New Baltimore have been reported that their little town has been taken over by evil demonic entities, so of course Google sent out a car to get, better pictures, more updated pictures, more accurate pictures. How about you bring them a couple of priests and it's time to bless the area. Next up, number 6, we have China's Area 51. What you're looking at right now could actually be China's version of Area 51. Is this real life right now? These strange white lines were discovered on Google Maps in the middle of China's Gobi Desert, and this image struck so many conversations online about what it could be. Most people believe that it's a calibration pattern for spy satellites, but then there are others that say that these lines prove aliens exist. These lines are located near the headquarters of China's space program. But unfortunately, we may never know the truth about what is really going on here. A very haunted bridge brings us to number 5. This is Booger Holler Bridge, and if you value your life, well, you'll never want to set foot or attempt to cross it, and that's because it is known to be extremely haunted. Legend has it that a father and son drowned while trying to cross the low bridge on a horse and buggy many years ago. And then there's another story about a woman and her child drowning when their car stalled on the bridge and the car was thrown into the river due to the strong current. People have even said that they can hear screams from the bridge, and people do satanic practices on it for some reason. So needless to say, the Google Street View car got close to the bridge, but they didn't dare cross it. Number 4, we have a creepy doll village. If you don't like looking at scary life-sized human dolls, then you'll never want to visit a small village in Nagoro, Japan. But in case you're curious, well, here's a taste of what you'll find there. Well, I told you that these dolls were creepy, but that's not all. Apparently an old lady will make a new doll every time someone in the village dies. So the amount of dolls outnumber the amount of people actually living in the village by about 10 to 1. I mean, could you imagine walking around at night and seeing all of these creepy dolls just staring at you? Couldn't they just be placed inside of an art gallery or something? This whole thing just makes me uncomfortable. So you know what, let's get the heck away from it and let's move on. Let's see what we have next. Scary underwater pyramids is up next at number 3. Well, this is an image taken from Google Maps that shows us that some creepy underwater pyramids might be lurking at the bottom of the ocean over in the Bahamas. This image sparked a lot of controversies when people said that these underwater pyramids could prove that aliens might be living among us. More reasonable people believe that these pyramids could have been made by an ancient civilization. But they also admit that we still can't rule out the existence of alien life forms, just yet. A nuclear fallout zone steps onto this list at number 2. Pripyat, Ukraine, has a bad reputation of being the site of the worst nuclear disaster in history. It's literally a ghost town with abandoned buildings that will probably never be lived in for a very long time. But the creepiest part of this town has to be this picture right here. Well, take a look for yourselves. It's literally a room full of old gas masks that were left behind. I don't know what's scarier, the amount of gas masks or the fact that there were child-sized gas masks left inside of an abandoned school. And topping this list, and at number 1, we have one of the most dangerous cities on Earth. This right here is El Bronx, Colombia. And even though the city is completely demolished now, it was once known as the most dangerous city on Earth. This was a neighborhood that was known for child prostitution and murder. Put it this way, if you found yourself walking the streets of this neighborhood, something awful would probably happen to you. Some of these buildings also had a lot of rotting murder victims inside, and gangs used to capture and feed rival gang members to starving dogs just to send the other gang a message.
Coming at number 10, we we have Forest Park, Savannah, Georgia. We're kicking this list off with a big one because Forest Park isn't just an innocent looking location, it's also breathtaking. It's one of the most gorgeous places you can visit in Georgia, with massive winding trees that look like they were planted by elves, beautiful lush foliage that decorates the entire area with a beautiful green backdrop, and on top of all this, there's architecture in this place that will make you think it was built for the Queen. I mean, look at some of the fountains in this bad boy. But with all that being said, you might not be eager to check out everything this park has to offer when you realize that there's some ghostly presence that will follow you around as you try to enjoy the nature. Apparently the whole city of Savannah is riddled with tunnels. They run throughout the entire city and are under some of the most famous pieces of Forest Park. There are many rumors about the tunnels. Some say that gangsters would use them to transport goods and dead bodies. Some people think that swarms of underground tunnel dwellers lived and died down there while trying to escape the surface life. But the most legitimate claim is that the tunnels were used by doctors to perform autopsies and some strange experiments. Number 9. The Gulf of Mexico shipwreck. I wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat. You have so much responsibility with all the people on board, and you don't even get to do the best things on a boat, which is take it easy and lay around the whole time. I especially wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat going through the Gulf of Mexico. There's over 2,000 shipwrecks in this area. Sailing through here is like your buddy dating someone crazy, even though you told them not to do it, and then big surprise, they burn down their house. Well, there's one shipwreck in particular that has everyone interested. It was discovered when Exxon was laying some pipe down in the Gulf. It's a ship that's estimated to be over 200 years old. The mystery about this old boat is that all attempts to do extensive research on the vessel have failed. Computers break down, robots stop working, people have begun to speculate that the boat is cursed and whatever is inside it needs to remain a secret. Ooh. Number 8. FAUNUS, ERAKLYON. This city was once one of the most important ports in the Mediterranean. There must have been an insane amount of spice rolling through this area. I bet the whole city smelled like the candle section in Bed Bath & Beyond. It's unknown why this amazing port got sucked into the ocean, probably another earthquake, or maybe it was Godzilla climbing out of the sea and smashing it into the ocean. Either or is really possible. Over the years, a ton of deep sea excavations have happened in the area, and so much has been dug up. Giant statues, gold coins, lost hieroglyphs, they can all be found in this area. It seems that the city was a major hub for several different cultures to come through and make trade. It's a huge bummer to think about all the knowledge that was lost in the sinking of this city, and all the spices, man. Number 7. The Aegean Sea ruins. The Greeks have a crazy long history. It's full of war, politics, coups, betrayals, some magic dudes lying in the clouds somewhere. I think one of the craziest parts about Greek history is that everyone only wore sandals. I mean, in every movie about ancient Greece, every person is in sandals the whole movie. Alexander the Great is like, I'm taking over your country, and all the people are like, your toes are out, dude, it's so disrespectful. But something even crazier than fighting war in terrible footwear is the sunken city right off the coast of Delos. It's thought to be the ancient city of Canaan, where the Athenians defeated the Spartans. Archaeologists call it an underwater Pompeii since there's so much history that has been preserved in this city. This city has helped archaeologists learn so much more about the ancient Greeks. Number 6. Baia. We got another awesome place that ended up in a watery grave. Man, I guess that's why they built Las Vegas in the middle of the desert. There's no way water could suck away anyone's good time anybody was having there. Baia was a hedonistic playground where people would come to bang and party. It would even attract the rich and famous. People like Julius Caesar had vacation homes there and would come to visit constantly. This place was basically the Playboy mansion of its day. There were statues and artwork of great legends like Achilles and Odysseus, but unfortunately the city was blasted by the Saracens in the 8th century. And no one was ever allowed to have fun there anymore. Huge bummer. By the time the 1500s rolled around, the city was abandoned, because what's the point of having a beachside town with no debauchery? And after centuries of volcanic activity, the city was pushed underwater. Now it's a dive site you can visit to see all the fun that was lost. Number 5. The Milky Sea. I know this one sounds super gross. The Milky Sea makes me think of a giant bowl of snot that you have to cross in order to complete some task in a video game. But this one is actually pretty cool. Popping up randomly at night, the Milky Sea is an effect caused by a ton of bioluminescent plankton in the water. This makes the sea look like it's glowing and gives off a milk effect. It kinda looks like a giant rave is going on underwater. This thing can be huge, sometimes as large as Connecticut. It's still unknown why the plankton group up like this. It could be for mating, or maybe they just like to hang out. But what is known that this has been happening for centuries, back before you could explain these things through science. So sailors thought it was all magic. That would have blown some dude's mind. The ocean is glowing. Quick, cut off your pinky to satisfy the gods. Number 4. India's underwater city. Another city lost to sea. We can assume that this one was another party town swallowed up to make sure people keep living that pleb life. Although I can't confirm whether or not this place was an endless fiesta, I can confirm that this city is old as hell. It was discovered off the coast of Dwarka, one of the coastal cities of India. After its carbon dating, it was estimated to be around 9,500 years old. If this city is indeed that old, it could mean that the reason it ended up underwater was the melting of the ice age, which happened around 10,000 years ago. This would mean that this is one of the oldest cities ever discovered. It would be 5,000 years older than the oldest Mesopotamian city ever discovered. The uncovering of the city was a major find, and it could unlock secrets as to where we came from and who our ancestors are. Number 3. The Bimini Road. The most famous underwater city of all time. It's said to have been the mecca of science and culture, and people from all over the world would come there to learn. Well, it's Atlantis, of course, the apparent lost city where Aquaman is king and pops out every now and again to help the Justice League with fish-related problems. Well, this sunken road off the coast of the Bimini Islands in the Bahamas is said to have led to the missing metropolis. It's made of giant carved pieces of limestone that are too precise to have been formed in nature, so they must have been man-made. Now, did they actually lead to a city? Well, I have no idea, but it's safe to say that there was some sort of structure built in this area out in the middle of the ocean, so who knows. Number 2. The Chinese Atlantis. Number 2. The Chinese Atlantis. North America isn't the only place with its own ancient sunken city underwater. China has a mystery city of its own. It was called Chichen, and honestly, everything there was going great. It wasn't a party city, it didn't need to be condemned by the gods, it wasn't Pompeii and it got hit with a natural disaster, it was actually just chilling in the open until 1959. What happened was the Chinese government wanted to build a new power dam, and in order to do so, they needed to sink a city. The bummer is that some of the structures in the city were over 1,300 years old. It was a piece of history that got sunk for a dam. The good news is that the city is under so much water that it has been preserved and now is a scuba diving hotspot. Number 1. Atlantis of Japan. Has no one ever thought of giving these places their own original names? Instead of calling everything that falls underwater Atlantis, I'm gonna drop my phone in a candlelight bath and call it Atlantis of my basement apartment. This joke is even funnier because I don't have a bathtub at my place. I would have to flood my stand-up shower. Definitely not as romantic. Well, this city apparently fell into the ocean 2,000 years ago off the coast of Yonaguni-jima after a massive earthquake hit. Imagine an earthquake hitting before science, and you think God is shaking the world because you didn't pray 18 times every day. Now this city sits at the bottom of the ocean. Some speculate that it's just rock formations, but there does seem to be a 25-meter tall pyramid at the site, so I don't think that's a natural rock formation.